I think next is Carrie. Yes, Carrie, good morning. Can you hear us?
I can, yes. Good morning, everyone. Chairman and the council, thanks for having me on this morning.
Good to see you.
Today I am bringing in a collection permit application. So on page 4 in your packets there, we have the University of Montana Tech applying for a collection permit. It is continuing a small mammal live trapping study that they've conducted in the past, for hantavirus. And so there are 2 spots along the river down by Buffalo Bridge that they live trap animals to get some kind of data measurements. And then they also collect a little bit of blood. And so to do that, they anesthetize the mice and then get a couple drops of blood, and then they analyze that, and then they release all of the mice where they catch them. It's a project that runs, I think they're out in the field for 3 days a month for between May and October. And it is one that sounds like a study that, because of COVID for the last 2 years, they hadn't applied for a collection permit, but they had acquired one in the past.
Any questions for Carol? I am familiar with this. It's received study approval for actually many times, same location. Continuity for these kind of research is very important, and it's been an effective study so far, and we've learned more about the presence of hantavirus on the reservation. Motion by Carol to approve the collection permit request for hantavirus studies along the Flathead River. Second by Anita. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Let's see. 9-4, one out of the room. Good to go, Carrie, on that one.
Thank you so much.
Mike?
How much hantavirus do we have?
Go ahead, Carrie.
Okay, it's definitely something that is prevalent. So small mammal cycles with the voles and the mice, they kind of go on like a cyclical pattern where we'll have a lot high numbers of voles and small mammals, and then it'll kind of teeter off. And it's just kind of this process that goes up and down. But hantavirus is always sort of present on the landscape in little bits. So part of what these studies try to get at is how their antibodies react to hantavirus and how those antibodies stay present within the populations as they're exposed periodically to hantavirus. Perfect. Well, I think that's all I had for you today. And then Shannon has a couple of things for you as well.
Thank you, Carrie. Shannon here. So Shannon, come on up. Shannon et al.
Morning, Council, Councilman McDonald. I'm here to get your approval on a possible cooperation grant-wise for an operation on the bison range that would be beneficial to the bison range itself in data collection and would help out SKC students as a way to train possible grad students and technicians for range work, but also help finalize some data, a way to take data to measure carbon sequestration through bison management and ranching. To kind of explain it a little better, I got Dr. Maureen McCarthy here, She's going to be the lead on the project if it's approved. And then Virgil for any other type of questions for vegetation wise.
Good morning. Good
Welcome.
morning, Chairman
Good to see you again.
and Council. Likewise. So this is a project that would be under the auspices of the lead institution would be the Intertribal Buffalo Council. So we've been working directly with Troy Heinert on that. And then ITBC would subcontract to the Desert Research Institute, which I'm faculty at. And we would work directly with Salish Kootenai College to do the technical analysis. So this is actually measuring and monitoring carbon capture, carbon sequestration on the range in order to assess the climate, what they call climate smart benefits of buffalo production on the range. And this site would be our primary site to do data collection in order to validate large-scale models of carbon cycling across the country. So we understand the benefits from a greenhouse gas capture perspective of buffalo ranching across the United States. What we are proposing to do on the range is to set up 2 towers that actually measure carbon fluxes. So those are, the towers are a small footprint. They're about 20 feet high, and they have instrumentation to measure carbon fluxes and meteorological conditions and also water fluxes on the sites. So we would work with Shannon and Virgil to find appropriate sites for those. Those would be running continuously for about 3 years during the project. This is a 5-year project. Then we would also work with SKC. Their students and faculty would be conducting vegetation surveys. We would also have some small, what we call static domes, little facilities that are about the size of this table that you carry around that allows us to look at carbon fluxes directly from soils. The students will be trained to use those. And the equipment would be stored here. And then the third thing is we would be flying a drone. The SKC faculty and students would be flying a drone over the range in order to characterize the vegetation. And then my organization would work with SKC to train the faculty and students on how to collect that data, how to analyze that data, and how to interpret the data in terms of buffalo management, rangeland management. So we will, almost all the work will be done by SKC. And then myself, I'm a resident here, and then my colleagues from DRI in Nevada will be the advisors, technical advisors to assist SKC in conducting this work. The data that we collect will obviously be of benefit to the project. NRCS is the main organization funding the project, and they are very much in need of validated data to understand carbon uptake on rangelands. They have almost none, and certainly none on tribal lands. And then also be valuable, we hope, to you in terms of looking at rangeland management decisions in the future.
Virgil? Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. We put together a budget, preliminary budget. Well, it's a final budget now, I guess, to bring together some range inventory folks. I have 2 people well-trained on staff now. Doug Dupuis will likely be helping with doing some consulting and advising. He's done previous range inventories there 15 some years ago. And to our knowledge, they haven't been updated. So hopefully through this process, we can get new precise data for the tribes to use in evaluation of the current range condition, of the carbon capture potential, and for future management needs, especially around invasive species. Another aspect we'll be doing the ground truthing for the drone imagery that will be coming in. to see how much we can determine as far as the invasive species spread there. I know there's some concerns out there on annual invasive grasses and toad flax and a variety of things. We're not going to be able to be real precise on that, but I think we can start predicting probably where we're going to find infestations and where invasive species management should be strongly considered. Any questions from council? Would council entertain supporting this request for funding from NRCS or ITBC on this project, utilizing the Bison Range staff and Salish Community College? This partnership. Go ahead. Mike.
The site's been identified for the towers.
No, they have not, and we would work directly with Shannon and the rest of the staff at the Bison Range to find sites that are appropriate from all perspectives, to make sure that they're in locations that work for you and that they are in the appropriate locations to collect the data we need. We would be doing all that in year one of the project. So we haven't identified specific sites, but the two towers would be looking at probably different areas. So areas, as Virgil mentioned, we're particularly interested in the impact of invasives. So maybe an area that has extensive invasive grasses in it, and then another area that's been more intact grasslands.
Okay. And then what was our policy for the use of drones across the Bison Range? It seems like that we had that discussion at one time.
The rule for the Bison Range is public use of drones is prohibited. Administrative use is allowed.
Okay.
This would be an administrative allowance. Go ahead, Virgil.
The process we would use, the SKC would be involved with that siting decision, and we'd do an ID team process. If there's a NEPA document required, we'd produce that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's required. Scientific study on the Bison Range is a normal protocol out there. I think the only consideration would be citing from the public. And again, finding those key locations that would add benefit to the research. So,
Yeah, I had discussed that with Dr. McCarthy here. Keep them out of sight. Rather not have them blaring, so in front of the public, because it is a public place. You don't want these big towers shining out on people. So I did advise her on that, and we'd specifically pick places where it'd be out of sight.
so I'm assuming then the fencing would be part of that for keep the elk out.
Yes, we will put up fencings to keep the wildlife at bay, and the elk and the bison. And that's just a small footprint that goes around the base of the tower. The base of the tower is very small. It's not substantially larger than what you would see for a meteorological station.
Just absolutely surprised when I look at the damage from elk and damage from bison, like in Yellowstone and everywhere else. It's not even comparable. Elk are your concern.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Martin.
I know they're doing it with cell towers, but they make them look like trees to be more forgiving on the eyes when you look out in the natural world. So is there any chance of making them blend in more like that?
Yes, we've discussed that with Shannon, and either white or silver on the landscape. So yes, we will do our best to make the equipment blend into the landscape as much as we can.
Use earth tones as much as you can. Any other further questions for Shannon at all? Motion by Len to approve the funding letter. Second by Jennifer. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Well, Bing's out of the room. 9-4. 1 out of the room. Thank you.
All right, good project.
Yep, you too. I'm gonna have to excuse myself for another meeting. I'll be back as soon as I can.
Okay.
Okay, before we get started, the council want to take a break. Let's take a 2-minute break. Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order. Did we have another issue, Shannon?
Yeah, I do have one other issue that Jennifer wanted me to bring in with that last one. So it's just a request for another letter of support for me to continue pursuing the antelope augmentation. We had a call with Quinn Kuka the other day. And in order for us to move forward from the point we're at now, we've been offered up to 50 antelope from Region 4. But we have to have a letter of support from the council saying that it's okay for us to continue on with Fish and Wildlife Commission. And they've got to take it to their board to approve it after that. And then from there, we'll start maybe working on some formalities and paperwork to finish out the project.
Okay, was this letter provided to the council or?
Yeah, I sent it to Jen yesterday.
Yes, Anita?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I just had a quick question, and I remember last year they were talking about carrying capacity up on the bison range.
Yeah,
And that was kind of my concern. I knew at that time they still had to do the roundup and all of that, but I'm just wondering about the carrying capacity.
yeah, the carrying capacity will be, we're kind of bumped up on that a little bit. We did take out 40 elk this year. I plan on doing that again this year, late fall. I'm hoping to start a little earlier on that. The wardens were showing interest in doing some archery out there. So maybe on the backside, I'd allow that where the public's not allowed to see that. And it would be a lot quieter rather than having people out there with rifles. So I'm hoping to get better numbers out next year. And then I do have planned later on, and once we get our feet under us out there, is some forestry projects to where I'm going to open up some more range ground. I do need to get rid of some of that encroachment from the Doug fir. It's quite heavily encroached in various spots up there, and there's a lot of ground I could gain that way.
All right, thank you, Shannon. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Shannon, the problem with antelope is predation by coyotes, right? Is there any plan on that?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up here towards the end, but yeah, there will be a problem with coyotes. And right now, we are having the aphis trapper, he's working on private lands because they were depredating on calves and adjacent fields. I could probably get him to come in and work with us on the bison range also to put some snares out where they're out of public's eye in areas that wouldn't be seen, but we would have to kind of take care of that for a few years for sure until the antelope get their feet under them. It's the fawns we have to worry about. So they've learned to kind of hang on and just wait for those to go off by themselves, and they wait for them to have fawns. We had 16 fawns born last year and only 2 survived till August due to coyotes.
Shannon, have you reached out to any other tribal members that would be interested in trapping?
I have not. We haven't gotten that far into the project yet.
Okay.
That is a possibility.
Yeah, just a
yes.
thought, just consideration when we do get there, if you can maybe put out a notice. 'Cause
Okay.
I know there are a few tribal members that are in it.
That do like trapping, yes.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions, comments? Yes, Mike.
Motion to support a letter.
Motion by Mike to support the letter. Second by Anita. Any other comments? All in favor, raise your hand, pose same. Motion carried.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Shannon.
You guys have a good day.
Yep. Good job. Okay, next up. Let's see here. Enrollment. Do you have anything in the package for them?
Nothing.
Lawrence Chastity, thank you for coming in this morning. So recently there was some conversation and discussion about our tribal IDs, and I think there was questions on the expiration of these tribal IDs.
You mean the reissue date? Not an expiration, but a
Reissue date, yes.
We had a lot of discussion on regards to an expiration date, and we know that membership does not expire. But for the purposes of making it a valid ID for the use of that ID at various locations such as Walmart, state of Montana, and various other places, we put a reissue date so that it would be reissued at a specific amount of time to allow for changes that are being made. And so for us to accommodate those establishments, that's why the reissue date is in there. Otherwise, it's difficult for establishments to accept an ID without a reissue or an expiration date.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that because there was some questions that came up.
Yeah, and people change every 5 years, so that either their looks and things like that, either like us, we get grayer hair. And a lot of the times we do IDs for everybody. And for young people, that change is drastic in 5 to 8 years. Because from a 3-year-old to a 12-year-old, that is a drastic change in size, weight, and other limits.
Okay. Yes, Jennifer.
I just want to say, except for me, I still look the same.
Yes, that's true.
Lawrence, I remember, I think it was about a year or year and a half ago, we had a company approach the tribe regarding the issuing of new tribal IDs. Any new discussion or information on that, or a proposal to the council about?
They are using their contacts. If you remember right, what he was doing is doing a research on a new technique that they wanted to develop and getting it through and acceptable by Homeland Security. That process is still an ongoing process. As you know, going through the red tape at Homeland Security is a long process. Even if we go through and want to develop a real ID internally, like we were planning, that at a minimum takes a year for us to develop and do all the research and processes. You have to have at least 5 mistakes on your real ID that only we would know where those mistakes are so that they can't be duplicated. You know, there's a lot of technical things that go on in developing an ID. And that process is going on with the process that they're doing now. And if we ever want to look at an enhanced ID process internally, we will also have to go through that same process and working and getting a process outlined with Homeland Security on how fast we develop those, incrementally make those processes available.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Yes, Jennifer.
Someone asked me, a tribal member asked me if it would be possible to put their Indian name on their tribal ID. What would that be? Is that possible for people to do that if they want to?
We can always talk to our IT. This discussion come up a long time ago, like for me, for instance, putting on my Indian name as Katakiikam, you know, and having that located right underneath our name. And our IT specialist out of New Mexico said that it's feasible to do. And because I think she can do just about anything we ask her. And she'll work out some process on how to put that on. And so if you would want me to look into it further, I can do that and talk with Rita and start including the Indian names if they so choose. There's a lot of individuals that don't have Indian names. And maybe that's something that they would look forward to if we could generate their Indian name onto their ID.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Consensus of the council to have Lawrence look into that. Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions? And one more, Jennifer.
Well, I think one of the issues of the reissue date is that some people have a hard time paying for it. Do we have a fund if somebody has a hard time paying for to get a new ID when it's time to be reissued? And I think it's like $5, or is it $5 for an ID?
Yeah, we charge everybody that's not an elder, 65 or older, don't pay for an ID. Those 65 or younger are charged $5. If they're within the DHRD program, we keep a list of those that are eligible for payments through that program, and they get theirs free, but DHR then reimburses us for that amount that we do. And if they need a tribal ID, they'll come in and say that DHRD sent them over. We'll put them on the DHRD list, give them their ID, and then periodically we'll send over a bill to DHRD and they'll reimburse us for those IDs.
All right, that sounds like a really good service to the membership. So I wasn't aware of that. I'll let them know because
I'm sorry. Usually, I guess it's just something that we generated internally between DHRD and enrollment.
okay.
Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
I've had instances where tribal members were trying to cash a check and they didn't have an ID and they were coming here to try to get an ID. Didn't have no cash until they were able to cash their check, but anyway, now that we know, we can let them know that.
Under my own discretion, if a person really needs an ID, let's take, for instance, a person gets a per capita check and they need an ID to cash that check. I'll make a concession and say that I'll give you your ID if you come back and pay me the $5 after you cash your check. Now, that some people will and some people won't, but you know that at that point in time, they need to have their funds available to them. It's a low priority for us for the $5, but it's a high priority for them to cash that check so that they can feed their family.
Yep. All right, very good. Any other comments, Jennifer?
Come on.
Lawrence and Chastity, thank you for coming in. Appreciate the information that
Yeah.
you guys
Now,
provided this morning. So thank you.
There's one other thing that we have is that, I did travel to Salt Lake City on behalf of the tribe on a tribal consultation with the Department of Defense in relationship to archaeological sites that are located on military properties. And it was a very, very good and interesting meeting, not only on my part, because one of those military properties is Dugway Proving Ground, where I spent 2 years at Dugway Proving Ground. And one of the things that was brought up is said, "Oh, you went to Dugway Proving Ground?" I said, "Yeah." And the colonel asked me, he says, "When was you there?" And I said, 68 to 70. I said, "Holy crap, that's way before I was born." So it kind of made me realize how old I was. But we had a lot of opportunity to go through all of their archaeological sites that are active and close to places that facilities that are going to be built. One of the things is, as many of you know, that the Minuteman missile is going to be decommissioned and a new defense system is going to be put in place. One of those locations is going to be New Mexico and also Dugway Proving Ground. So one of the sites that they're looking at does have archaeological sites around it, but they assured me that the site will not infringe on any of the archaeological sites by at least 700 meters. So, you know, everything is looking good. So I toured the Utah Museum and made my views known to the other tribes that there are some artifacts in there that I don't think should be displayed. And since it wasn't my tribal artifacts, I did notify the tribes that those artifacts are in there and that they should consider talking to the council about having them removed. And also, the Department of Defense is turning over some excess military property to BLM, and BLM is going to be transferring that surplus property to a city in Nevada. I questioned them about the transfer of that property without notification of tribes, because surplus property can be claimed by a local tribe. And they said that they would review it again and notify the tribes that that is surplus property. And my problem is I didn't talk to the Shoshones before I made the statement. So I don't even know if they wanted the property or not, but I don't think any tribe would not take property that is classified as surplus.
Okay. All right, very good. Well, thank you for representing us there, Lawrence. I know those projects with the Department of Defense are many times they don't reach out to the tribes.
Correct.
And so for you to take the time to go up there and making sure that the tribes' voice are heard, we really appreciate that. So thank you.
One other note is that our tribal preservation, I believe, has a contract with Malmstrom Air Force Base to do their archaeological review.
Yes, they do. Yep, that's true. I did see that. Any comments from council? All right, very good. Well, once again, thank you.
We have some other issues that we would like to address today. And I'll have Chastity start off. One of them is DNA test that come back and it shows that the avuncular testing is 99.7% that the deceased person is the brother and the biological relation to the person being tested.
Is an action going to be asked for council on this?
Yeah.
Because I think at this point in time, I would like that discussed in the enrollment committee before that does come into council, because on these types of issues, I'm kind of reluctant to ask council to move forward on a decision when it comes to something like that, because until we actually taken the time to review it.
Okay.
Because they're so sensitive, they're sensitive, and we just don't want to act on something that we have not had a chance to review. So,
okay. So then that concludes.
yeah. So if you can work with Jennifer and set up a meeting, an enrollment committee meeting, and we can get that done and taken care of.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes.
Okay.
And legal is requesting executive.
Okay. We will go out of regular session into executive.